One person who isn't shy of a headline is my next guest, university student come political aspirant Drew Pavlou. You might remember Drew as the outspoken University of Queensland student and human rights activist who uncovered campus sympathies with the Chinese Communist Party. Back in 2020, Drew was suspended for his activism for supporting Hong Kong and criticising Beijing and the CCP. My view is we need more students like him. Well, not only has he now returned to his studies at the university, he's also announced the formation of a new political party and a lineup of candidates for the upcoming election. But once again, Drew is facing all kinds of opposition to his party and its anti-CCP policies. Drew Pavlou, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for having me on, Chris. It's beautiful to be out here on the Sydney Harbour. It's such a beautiful view. We love this sunburnt country.
Let's talk about your party and the candidates you've recruited. You all have a common value, right?
Yes, so the common theme with all our party candidates is the fact that all our party candidates are united by the fact that they've faced persecution by the Chinese Communist Party. So we all know the brutal horrors that the Uyghurs of China have endured over the recent years. 1 million in concentration camps. We are very, very proud, my party, to lead the way with the first Uyghur candidates anywhere in the entire world to run at an election. So young Adila, young Mohammed and Inti Alham, they're running in Adelaide. We've got the young Hong Konger, Max Mock. He's an Australian citizen. He was on the front lines in Hong Kong. He saw friends brutally tortured to the point where they were never able to walk again and talk again. And he was on the front lines of the Hong Kong movement. He was able to get out just before the national security law, where he had friends that were caught up in the purges. And he's now running against Gladys Liu, who this network has interviewed before, and she refused to say that Xi Jinping was a dictator. Well, we've got the young Hong Konger running against Gladys Liu. Max Mock, he is going to fight for Australia. He's going to fight for our sovereignty, our freedom, our democracy. And we've also got a wonderful candidate in New South Wales, Kyunzum Dongdu. She was actually a stateless refugee. She fled from Tibet as a young person. She has been in Australia for 16 years. She came to Australia as a refugee from Tibet because the Chinese government brutally invaded and destroyed her country. And she's standing up as well for Australia. So all of our candidates, including me, I mean, I come from an immigrant background myself. My parents run a fruit stall as Greek immigrants. We're all united by our love for Australia. This is a country that has taken us all in, and we want to fight for Australian democracy, Australian sovereignty. This is our only home. What can we do if the Chinese Communist Party comes to our only home and tries to censor us and intimidate us and threaten us here in Australia, our own country? So
well, censorship,
that's what unites
let's talk
our
about
party, a love of Australian democracy.
Let's talk about censorship. You've already run into your first political hurdle. A billboard company has refused to run your material.
Well, it's not just one billboard company, Chris. The amazing thing is that the billboard representative I was speaking to from Bishop Outdoor Advertising, he explained that all the billboard companies in Australia sit on the board of the Outdoor Media Association. They're all in cahoots together. I recorded a phone call with this billboard representative, which is legal in Queensland, and I recorded the conversation. He says, direct quote, all the billboard companies are in cahoots. They've all agreed they will not be allowing you to put up any content that is anti-Chinese Communist Party. So we're basically looking down the barrel of a full nationwide blacklisting on our campaign, as well as a full nationwide blacklisting of the Chinese Australian dissident artist Badiou Cao. He was the one who did amazing artwork for our campaign. We wanted to put up his artwork calling for a boycott of the Beijing Olympics, which is actually official government policy in Australia. This is not a radical thing to call for. This is official government policy. It's bipartisan. Both Labor and the Liberals support it. We wanted to put it up on a billboard, and this Bishop billboard company said, Goa, another huge billboard company in Queensland, they've come to them. They've said, we are very worried for the consequences for our industry if we run this billboard. And basically they've said all billboard companies in Australia will not run any anti-Chinese Communist Party messaging because all the screens, the LED screens, the steel, all comes from China. And so we're looking at the fact that we can't actually campaign in our own country. Apparently you have to go to the Chinese government to approve a billboard design when it comes to an Australian federal election. And if people think that's sickening, then, I mean, come and join our party, because we're trying to point out just how far down the road we've gone when it comes to CCP interference in this country.
Yeah, it's another classic example of how deep Chinese connections run. What's the name of the party?
So the party is Democratic Alliance, and I'm running as a Senate candidate in Queensland. I'm running to try and get up. If I'm elected, I'll be the youngest ever I'll be the youngest ever elected to the Parliament in the Australian Senate, and if I get in there, 6 years of parliamentary privilege where I can speak against Chinese Communist Party operatives in this country. I will be working to expose Ministry of State Security operations in this country. I will be speaking up for Australian sovereignty. If you get me in 6 years, I can fight with parliamentary privilege. They can't sue me. If you get me into the Parliament 6 years, I can't be sued for defamation. I can expose the corruption that's going on in this country when it comes to CCP interference and their attempts to buy up our democracy.
You've got plenty of supporters amongst our viewers and amongst some of us here. Drew Pavlou, all the very best. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.